like to call to order the meeting of the Walton Central School District Board of Education. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our first item is approval of the minutes from our previous meeting on November 7th.
I'll make a motion to accept them as submitted.
Second. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approve all of the CSE, CPSE recommendations.
I have a question on one of them, so I'd like to bring that into executive session, please.
Okay.
Dr. McDonald, will we do that at the end of the meeting?
If that's what the board's
That's
okay with that.
We don't have any visitors tonight, so public comment.
We'll have to come back in to make that happen.
Correct.
Unless you want to do an early session right now and take care of it.
No, we can
There's nobody to dismiss.
I'll do it after.
Okay. Discussion items. So the first discussion item that we have is the curriculum committee. So the curriculum committee met on October 30th. So there's an attachment here with some of the things that we discussed during the meeting. We went over our agenda and our purpose and mission, what our annual schedule of review will be. We touched on the topic of textbooks, so it looks like in our spring meeting, when we talk about textbooks, we'll be talking about the high school social studies and math department. We went over some 3 through 8 assessment results, data, the regents. We will also be, one of the presentations tonight will be our principals talking about our summer program. Did you have additions you wanted to talk about?
The 3 to 8 state test results are not public at this time, and that's coming out in January. Is that what you're still thinking?
Yeah, oddly, they released it for internal discussion and review only at this point in time. And they're saying in January or February, they'll have the public data site detailed, and at that time it'll be available for public presentation. So that's the reason why we don't have a presentation tonight. We don't even have any regional data. The only thing we have is what we pull off results ourselves. So the charts that are in here are things that we had to create and recreate. So we don't have, there's no portals, there's nothing of that nature. Same with regions, which I don't understand why that is, but they haven't populated the regional portals on those as either. But when they do, we had talked about, we'll bring that data forward. We won't wait till the spring. We'll bring it forward as it comes available. Okay.
The facilities committee met on November 14th. We also have a link to their what they discussed, but if anyone wants to talk about it.
Kind of a recap. We're just starting the 5-year plan. Well, not the 5-year plan, I'm sorry. The next project, and we're breaking it down into buildings. So bus garage we started with first. Unfortunately, because there's so much up in the air about the electric buses and the ability to put electric buses in the garage that they will not fit in, height or lengthwise, different conditions about the building. So a lot of things got kind of put on hold. And we're kind of separating electric issues, like with electric busing, and then building needs separate, we're separating the two. I think that was kind of where we left it. We're waiting for information to come back on different grants that may be available. We did find out after our meeting that SED will approve raising a roof.
raising a roof, peak versus flat, milling, as long as no depth requirement. So a lot of the questions that we had that evening, we did get some answers to. So, and there is funding already starting to become available in grants, which is something that you had heard, Kevin, at your conference.
So that was one of the things that we were kind of waiting on. So our next meeting will be December 14th, I believe, or 12th, December 12th. And we're starting with, that night will be the elementary school. Prioritizing, what we feel is priority 1, 2, or 3, as far as another building project, so.
From the 5-year plan.
Plan, yes.
So was there a list of prioritized coming out of the bus garage? Or no, nothing at this time because we're waiting? Is that?
Well, there's kind of 2 lists.
Yeah.
A lot of them overlap one another, but the biggest thing come into like the funding, like for example, we know the doors and stuff over there need to be worked, they need to be replaced. I mean, the bus garage is not in great shape, but it's one of those things, how much money do we go to the taxpayers to say, listen, we want to do this project, and then we redo, like, we were questioning the milling the parking lot, for example, because these charging systems, if that continues on the path it is, we're gonna have to address that. Then you gotta dig up your parking lot. So, like Ron said, the wall we hit the other night was trying to find a project to move forward with that is not gonna get done today and then dug up in just a few years or redone. So I mean, it's trying to mirror those 2 things. So we kind of broke them out into one was electric and so we're working on 2 different projects that are probably gonna get, if politics stay the way they are today, they're gonna get merged together because they're gonna overlap so much to do the project. It's.
We'll probably circle back to that.
Right, no, it's, so it's,
we didn't come to a definite answers, this is priority 1. So we're still waiting for information to come back that we could have a better understanding of how much the cost would be, and then how to move forward. And like Kevin just said, we're not gonna put down a new parking lot and a couple years later have to dig it back up.
The architect came thinking he was gonna be able to get prioritizations and move away, but instead he went away with about that much
More
homework.
stuff.
So they're doing some work for us at this time.
Yep.
so, okay, and,
One thought just led to another thought, and led to
Right.
another one.
just as a quick cap on that too, back to the electric bus situation, was like the height requirements. Right now, SED improving, correct me, Mike, if I misspeak here, please. They're not funding any storage for electric buses. So your buses have to be stored outdoors. Now, one of the things we're looking at, like, for example, our bus garage will not store that. But if we make modifications to that building, we could still go into that building. It's a screwy deal, because you can make modifications to that building today under the old line of thinking, if that's how I want to phrase it, versus if we were to eliminate that and go all electric and say we want to build a new structure for electric buses, they'd have to be outdoors. So if we change this building to fit electric buses, then they can go indoors. It's
As long as we stay within the footprint, right?
footprint of the building. So it's, politics at its greatest.
Okay, and then as Rhonda said, the next meeting will be on December 12th at 5 o'clock. Finance Committee will meet on Monday, December 18th at 5. And then just a reminder that Dr. McDonald, Meg, and Kevin Verweer will be attending the School Boards Institute on November 28th in Oneonta.
If I could interject on that, I have a
Yep.
comment on that. So, and I was just telling Rhonda about this before the meeting. I now have a conflict for that evening, so I will not be going to Oneonta. There's a Delaware County Regional Innovation Council that's the very first meeting that's been there, and I certainly have to be there to represent the school district. So I don't know how long that's gonna go, and from Delhi to Oneonta, I have no idea what's going on. So that seat's already, if anybody decides that they wanna go that evening, Meg is going, Kevin is committed. If anybody else wants it, there is a seat available to take my slot. So so that's out there. And if I get additional details and find out that's only gonna be a short time period to Delhi, then maybe I can zip over, but I got a feeling it's gonna drag out, so.
And then our next discussion item is the prom policy draft. So I don't know, from our last meeting, we talked about if we had other suggestions or that type of thing. I don't know if anyone has any more they would like to discuss about this at this time.
I did a little research on my own, checking with tents. We're kind of stuck with Morris Tent. You know, that was the price that they got. Checked with Orange County. They have a big tent company down there. And unfortunately, it would not be cost effective for them to travel up here to set the tent up, to be cheaper than what Morris Tent would do. I also checked with other school districts and where they hold their proms, whether they have a prom policy. And, excuse me, Sydney and Delhi. It depends on their budget funding. So sometimes they have it in their high school gym, and other times if they have enough money, they can go off campus. So I asked them where they hold it, where's big enough for them, and Sydney uses Farview Farms in Unadilla, and then Delhi has used Bluestone Golf Course, which is fairly new. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's actually a very nice location. If you go, well, it's on Scotch Mountain Road, so it's right on the golf course. And they just redid the whole thing a couple of years ago. Yeah, so that would be in Delhi. The other one would be Farview Farms. Farview Farms, just kind of getting a cost comparison to what Ms. Albrecht had provided, they charge between $500 and $800. So I thought that was very reasonable. So Castle on the Delaware did not return an email or phone call to me, so I just don't see the interest as being there. But there are different options versus, you know, Oneana. So just putting that out there. And quite frankly, I don't think that our custodial staff should be the problem that we can't have prom here. I still think that we should have that as an option, and I think we should definitely look into that, even if we have to bring in extra staff, you know, for that evening. But I think it's just premature to put a policy out there right now until we get all that gathered, in my opinion. It's just getting too close, and I just don't think we can pull it off this year and expect them to come up with additional costs that they had not planned on prior. But that's just my opinion. I don't know if anybody else has anything.
One of the things that with a policy committee that we struggled with was trying to find it to where we weren't defining specific event, you know, locations, trying to use a radius or whatever, and it wasn't working out. And I'll be honest, I was very much in favor of keeping a prom here, because I like doing things locally. But even in my personal life, I won't do things locally if it's going to cost me substantially more to do it locally. I mean, I think there's a balance between staying close to home when you do your business and that type of stuff, and I think there's a balance the other side of that of trying to be competitive. So we're looking into, like you say, with the numbers that we had in our last month's discussion, going into that discussion, I was very much set on, I'd like to see it stay here, but I'm also not looking for the district nor the students to see that additional financial hardship, because that surprised me at just how much that was. And I don't necessarily, I'm not in business, so in the community, I can't speak to that. But so I guess, long story short, I'm not so much in favor of the policy today. Just because I think it's gonna be financially more challenging for the students, and I'm not looking to spend taxpayer dollars outside of these grounds.
Well, and that's just it, because they would have to do substantial more fundraising to have it in certain locations. And like I said, I don't know the Bluestone Golf Course amount. I wasn't able to get a hold of anybody when I called, so that could be, the same amount as, say, the castle. That I don't know. But at least there's other options out there, and that was my goal, to give them other ideas that they wouldn't be traveling over Oneonta Mountain. And I think in the future, maybe we should discuss, like Ms. Albrecht had said, having crowning earlier, not having it at 11 o'clock at night and then everybody traveling back from Oneonta.
That would be my only suggestion, I think, is if they would just think about maybe just moving the time of the prom a little bit. If they,
So that would be
Oneonta.
keeping with it, because I think
Yes.
they did it by an hour last year,
so,
so they went, the
But
crowning was
they
at
kept the
10.
crowning late, and that could, I'm sure Mrs. Albrecht would be willing to discuss,
right. That would be my only suggestion coming out of everything we talked about at the last meeting.
Right, get it earlier.
Yeah, if they could.
Yep.
And make it a little bit easier.
And I'd rather them stay locally. I really would. I just feel that it's safer for everyone. But unfortunately, the options are not there right now, so I think further research needs to be done, to reach out to other areas. And Delhi's not that far away, Unadilla's not that far away, a little bit closer, but those are things that they need to get on the schedule, a year in advance before, I do know that Fairview Farms does have availability. The gentleman had told me that today. They only have 2 schools that have booked. So that is an option for them, but.
For future years.
Yeah.
So would the board be comfortable with us saying, it sounds like we're gonna hold at this time, not go forward with a first reading next month, but if we communicate to Marcia and to the group, that the board would ask for a wider exploration of venues, potential new ones, old ones that are available, and if we know of any administratively, staff-wise, board-wise, that will send it their way for consideration in the future. So it's not just Oneonta with that trip. If there happens to be one shorter distance, or at least all that could be taken into consideration. Is that what I'm hearing?
And earlier crowning. That way, if the families
Right,
do
and
want to
earlier
attend, it's
crowning,
not,
exactly.
so late.
I see Art's got his pen going over there, so I think we captured it.
And then,
This is
I
good.
know that this is an option for students if they do not have a ride. The school district does provide a ride, and it's not necessarily a school bus.
Right.
It may be a school vehicle, but not a school yellow bus, so you're not going to prom in a big yellow bus per se. But just so families know that that is an option out there, that don't let that stop a student from attending prom.
Absolutely.
I don't know,
So are we moving this back to the policy committee? Is that
I
kind
would
of what-
table it for right now
Okay.
until we can, do a little bit more
Yeah.
research on it.
Because one of the things that I was thinking, and I'm in agreement with what both of you have mentioned, was kind of what I talked about the last meeting, is could we have a committee that, or have a policy that expresses the board's desire to have it closer to the school due to safety issues, reducing travel distances, and how do we develop those opportunities over time that are not right here? And could that be done through a committee that includes business members, students, the advisor, parents, that they're trying to understand all the opportunities that are out there and what new ones may be coming, and then report back to the board so we can understand how new opportunities are developing, so we're aware of these that are coming up, so we can jump on them, when they do come up. I think if we don't put a policy in place that states that that is our objective, then it's probably just gonna go stagnant again. So if that is our objective, I think maybe we should at least try to move forward a policy that expresses our desire to, reduce the travel distance,
Mhm.
focused on safety.
I think it would be wise to move it back to the policy committee. But I think for the board and everybody to have the understanding that there'll be no prom policy coming out for the 2024
Yeah.
prom.
Yeah.
That, I mean, that we'd be moving a policy projectively forward for future years, but the next prom is gonna be policy
Yeah.
free in a sense. I mean, if that,
Yeah.
I mean, because there's just not time to coordinate that and make that, but I hate to see it just set on the table, because what's gonna happen is this time next year, it's
We'll have
gonna
the
catch a
same
light
thing come
again.
up, yes.
To where right now, it's just keep working with it, and we need to change it, but just,
So possibly July? Like have the policy
Yeah, I was
committee bring
thinking-
it back in July, that's early enough.
Well,
Just see
I was thinking if we were gonna have a ad hoc committee, if everybody's in agreement with that, that would be like in the spring, they would start looking at those opportunities for the
Mhm.
following year.
but I think that's something the policy committee can work on, how to structure the
Yeah,
policy.
Right, yeah, and then bring it.
And then bring it back to the board, hopefully before spring. I don't know if I wanna really hammer down a date on it, but I'm just saying,
Right.
but with everybody in this room having, and so that the staff can have a clear understanding that the 24 prom would not be affected by that, by that policy.
Well, and I think with this clear direction, potential direction of the board and the desire, this gives time for Art and the advisors and students to come up with how do they feel that they can come up with that process. They may come up with a process of how they can do it every year, how they can engage vendors, how they can reach out, how they can make sure they take into
Mhm.
consideration any vendors or any opportunities out there.
Right.
So this will give an opportunity to kind of put it back in their lap and have them come forward with a potential action plan for how this can be done, whether it's committee driven, whether it's however, and we'll see what they bring forward in a future policy meeting that has it on the agenda.
And that's like me just reaching out. I didn't know of this, but contacted another school and the Farview Farms. The gentleman that I spoke to was very understanding of school and student issues that, they need to make it affordable for this, milestone event that, these children have. So, on their website, you'll see a wedding venue price, and it's nowhere, what they're offering to school districts is nowhere near that. So they take that into consideration, and I think if you have those conversations with other local restaurants and stuff, you may be able to get that. And if an event is too small, you might be able to put a tent outside as well, and then, you could have part of the venue out there and then your meal inside or something like that, so you can break it up a little bit, Schoolhouse, Rainbow. There's been some pretty big weddings at the Rainbow, so, that might be a possibility. But yeah, I think we table it for now and then bring it back and.
I just think it's part of the junior class leadership development is prom.
Yep.
And so this would be a very good leadership exercise for them to come up with the concept of how they would do it. And then each year, it would be a very good leadership practice for them to go do the work. They're trying to develop the venue, so we give them a clear direction of each year to, give a report to Mr. Loomis on what they have looked at and how they've explored it and what they've come back with and what their options are and what the vote is. But let's see. I would recommend that we let the kids and the advisor and Mr. Loomis come up with a plan, and if it doesn't meet the satisfaction of the board, we can always tweak it. But let them go ahead and do the work, be a great leadership exercise, great educational opportunity for them. Do you agree with that?
I agree.
Awesome.
Okay. Do we have any correspondence?
We do not.
And we do have a presentation for regarding the summer program. So, Mr. Loomis, let's go with-
Whoever's first.
who's the first?
So this was what we covered in the policy committee meeting, and I'll be going over the high school portion. I think you guys both have stuff too. So this is the, I believe, second year in a row, it's like the summer in a row, we were able to hold summer school in person. The year before it was at Townsend, last year it was here in the building. Just starting with attendance, the biggest thing I'm looking at is the number all the way to the right, the total attendance percentage. We had 94% attendance for our students this year. We have a two absence limit because it's such a short time period. Anything outside, and we're only Mondays through Thursdays, anything outside of that, we really start to have conversations with folks and saying like, hey, this might not be the best summer for you to try and get this credit back because you're missing valuable content for 2-hour sessions that they have. So any absence really could impact their progress. And there it is right there again. Going back to the students that were enrolled in summer school, this is their attendance for that prior school year. The New York State chronic absenteeism threshold is 17 days. Anything above that, you're above the threshold. You're considered chronically absent. The average number of days missed for students enrolled in summer school was 17, and the percentage of all students enrolled in summer school who missed 18 or more days was 38%. So as you start to see, there's a correlation here between being in school and your grades, that relationship there. The New York State Regents exams in August of last summer were the last session that special appeal was in place. Essentially what that did is that brought the passing window from 65 down to 50. And as long as you passed the course, you would get that credit for the Regents. But again, August was the last time that's in place. Not all students who took the Regents were enrolled in summer school. The main goal of summer programming is to get students to recover credits. I'll hit on that again in a little bit. We did have some students, when you look at the Regents scores, who just showed up for some review classes and then took the Regents exams. So it's not when you look at the Regents scores, it's not a true representation of our summer programming. It's just something else that we offer because some of the courses we do offer do have the Regents attached, and students need to make up both at some points. I talked about the appeals, and this is just some numbers. I'll let you guys look at this for a little bit. One thing I do want to point out as you're looking through this, if you look at the average score that these students had on the Regents exams, you'll see that our students heavily relied on that appeal. Total number of appeals were 8. That's a big number, and this year it's going to be interesting to see what happens with our January and June Regents when that appeal is gone, and those 8 students would have been still needing that credit if this session wasn't under that special appeal still. Any questions on this chart? Or?
Just interrupt you for one.
Sure.
So on this here, I'm assuming there's been actions taken to make this very clear to the students that this option no longer exists?
Yep, it's routinely included in our communication out to families, mostly around Regents time, because that's when a lot of folks pay attention to it. And that's something that we're going to continue as we approach this January session coming up.
So the 42 students are students that not necessarily took summer school, but had to retake the Regents.
Could be a combination, right? Students that were enrolled in summer school had that content reinforced all summer, or students that just showed up because they had the course credit, they just need the Regents exam credit. So it's a combination.
Okay. So what I'm looking at, like Earth Science, there's 18. Is that on an average year? Is that number usually higher for that course?
Earth Science usually is one of our higher attended courses in summer school because it's a 9th grade course. That's and if students get that semester 1, that's a tough course for them to not only pass, but then also pass the Regents. and they could be doing well in the class, there's an additional lab requirement that's attached to that. So there's a lot of hoops students have to jump through right away in 9th grade to be successful in that course. And sometimes as freshmen, they don't have the greatest start in high school, so we do get some higher numbers.
So, like, if I understood that right, if they have it first semester, they have to wait until the end of second semester to take the Regents? Or
No,
it's
because
taken
they'll take
right
it in the
January
session, as long as they have the lab hours. You have to have 30 lab hours to be eligible to take it.
All right.
Okay. Some of the data could be explained by a lack of irregular format for the Regents exams. They've been mandatory or volunteer-based. The special appeals, they've been different. It's not what students should be used to. It's not what staff is used to, I'll say. The data provides evidence linking absenteeism to poor academic performance, and I talked about how students heavily relied on those appeals. Credit recovery, again, this is the biggest reason why we intend to run summer programming. 32 students attempted to recover 40 credits. 83% of them were successful. And there are benchmarks in the high school that we like to see students hit as they progress through the grade levels. And because we're semestered, there's good things and bad things to semestering. The good part is that we can give them another shot to get caught up, so that when they finish their 9th grade year, let's say, they have the desired number of credits that we're looking at and they hit the required courses. If they don't meet those requirements and they go into the next year, that course from their 9th grade year doesn't go away, and it follows them into their 10th grade year. And now all of a sudden they're taking 3 core academic courses in 1 semester. Those are 3 80-minute classes. That's 3/4 of their day. And some of those courses could be writing intensive. If they have to get 2 writing intensive courses in that same semester, that's a very hard semester. So we can offer them the summer to catch that up and to avoid that overload. That's very valuable for our kids. You would see an increase in number of students falling behind if we weren't able to offer this. And because there's certain credit requirements we like to see, it could potentially deny them access to the BOCES programming, because if they're not academically at the 10th grade level for credits, when they go to BOCES their junior and senior years, we're gonna run out of time to catch them up with the rest of their credits to meet the mandatory credit number. So the credit recovery piece, again, I can't tell you how important it is for our students, our counselors, our teachers, that we have this opportunity for our kids.
So how is that expressed out to students and parents? Mainly parents, because students may not relay that information to their parent, that they're in jeopardy of not staying on track for the number of credits that they need each year.
Sure, so it's communicated in several ways. If we know ahead of time that we have a student that's eligible, we meet with them, we bring them in, we call them principal hearings. We pull families in, we talk to them, we lay out the options, and we go through it with them. A lot of it is one-on-one work with counselors. They literally pull kids in, they explain, lay it out to them, contact home, send a letter home. And unfortunately, we don't have everyone attend summer school that should. So we have some students who their families go on vacation every summer. It's just not something that it's not a part of their summer. But for those that do take advantage of it, and it helps out a lot. So again, 83% of students regain credits. Factors of their success: small class sizes. It's 2-hour sessions, so you're really getting that content reinforced throughout the morning, because it's an 8 to 12 program. Condensed material, established relationships in most cases, because we've been lucky that the last couple of years we've had it in person. I think every class but one, both year, we've had our staff teach it, who they've had during the year. They might have already taken the course then, so that's a valuable component that you can't really get. If they were to go up to BOCES, they would be learning from somebody that they don't know. That's it for my part. Yeah.
Can you make up the labs in the summer, like the science labs, is that?
Can you make up the labs?
Yeah,
I don't
I've
think
heard
so.
that.
So if you pass the labs in the spring, that stays with you for a full year. So you can
Okay.
retry again in June, even though you may have passed the class,
Okay.
failed the regents. That stays with you. You can also try again in the summer.
Okay. You have to have the lab done during the regular
Yeah.
school year, okay.
Right, so you can't make it up in the summer. You have to have the lab pieces be eligible for summer school.
Okay,
Okay?
Thank you.
thank you.
So at elementary, we have the reading and math program. Our program is based on rescue skills, which we determined from our local screeners. So we use the Fast Bridge assessment and we use our report cards, which is standards based. So by looking at those two pieces of information, we're able to identify students that really are in need to fill some of the gaps in their learning. So why do we do this? It helps maintain the routines for some of our kids, especially if there's any absenteeism involved. It really helps them to keep coming to school because it's a smaller setting for them. It promotes positive relationships. It reinforces the knowledge and learning gains that we've been working on. And the biggest piece is it avoids that summer slide. Because as we know, over the summer, a lot of the kids start dropping back. So with our program, we're able to keep our kids focused on the skills that they need. It is intense. It's usually small group. When we go to the next slide, you'll see the numbers, which really helps it to focus in on what we need it to do. And it also provides that check-in for the social emotional learning pieces for students. So our next slide here just shows how it's broken down. We only do K through 3. This year it was a change for us because we were over here instead of at Townsend Elementary. So our participation dropped a bit. We think it's really because a lot of our kids walked to the school and they weren't going to walk over here. So we did see a big drop, but we kept pushing forward and our kids showed up. This is pretty much every day, the numbers that you were seeing there. We have some kids that kind of came spotty, like once or twice each week. Some kids took vacations and came the other weeks, but we're happy with the turnout and we're going to continue to do that. So this summer, I think we'll be over here as well, right, Mike?
Correct.
Yes.
Is that because of the construction?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to run all programming and the food, summer food over here, same as we did last year. We won't have IRT, so it won't be as busy as it was last summer, but we'll run everything else the same way we did. Just a little more flexibility for the administrators to be able to spread out a little bit.
Is that something that we've looked at, transportation? Would that help with that number?
Well, I'm sure it would.
I'm just more or less saying from Townsend School to here, not house to house.
House to
Yeah.
house.
Not that type, I'm just
having them
saying,
walk to the school
plus
and a bus.
school to school.
We haven't looked at that, but that's a very good point.
If walking across town is the issue, then
Yep.
I just,
That's something to think about. for
Yeah,
sure.
we could look at it. One of the things that we also, and this may be the year to do it, because one of the things we did this year, I had mentioned it briefly at some point with the board, but not in depth, is Melanie and Adam worked through the process of what's called an enrichment coaster with BOCES, which was something I was involved in when I was there. And what it allows you to do is the two programs, summer school program for elementary and also the SEL program that Adam will present on in a moment. Those two programs, all the expenses related to the staffing and the expense related to the program, supplies, things of that nature, even a portion of the supervision of the program, we're able to run through the expenses through BOCES and get aid on a portion of those expenses. So that'll help us as we move forward. So as we get into tighter fiscal times, which we know are upon us, next year's summer allocation will have some revenue coming in next fall, and we'll be able to project exactly what it will be based off of that. So if we put in a transportation from across, hopefully that is something that's an allowable expense, but even if it's not, we do have some revenue coming in that could offset that. So when I think, how many days is your program?
20 days.
Those 20 days. So 20 days of a mile, we probably wouldn't have additional labor costs, so it would just be the expense of the of the vehicle and the non-aided mile back and forth. So the expense will be minimal in comparison going between. So it's definitely doable and it should be doable fiscally. So
And that's a
certainly something to look
four-day-a-week
at.
program also.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. So,
Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
So our Crush Connects program is an SEL program. It's really created kind of the brainchild of originally Noel Granger and Christina Hewitt. They put it all together. They planned it out. Kate Hoffmeister and Laura Fassler have jumped on board. Laura with some therapeutic art types things, and then Kate Hoffmeister, she has all sorts of skills as a social worker that have been a tremendous help. The rationale is basically to target the kids who we know need the support over the summer. It could be a long 2 months for some of our students. Some of them, because of their parents' work schedules and just their home life, are pretty much on their own for those 2 months. So this is only a once a week thing, but it's still that one time a week where they can come in, they can meet with trusted adults, some peers, really work through a lot of the coping skills, the social emotional skills that they've been working on throughout the school year. Originally, we recognized the need for this during COVID, when everybody was so separate and not really interacting with one another. But then once we started doing it, we saw how valuable it was beyond that. It's a 4-week program, mid-July to early August. Each group comes in, it's kind of targeted students. They never say no to a kid, but they also have certain kids that they really, push to attend. That they know, all right, this kid, his parents work the night shift, they're gonna be sleeping all day, he's gonna be running around town or she, running around town all day during the summer. What can we do to get them in a better situation, at least for a few hours a week? Different type of activities and exercises. Really, a lot of the key concepts are built on the Alternatives to Violence program. Affirmation, respect, communication, all those things. Therapeutic art piece that Laura's done a ton with. If you look across from the high school office, next time you're down that way, there's this really cool mural that they made over the summer that's displayed up. There's a combination of I think it's clay that they glazed in wood. It's really cool. And it was part of the Kids in Crush Connect created it and put it together, and it's displayed there. They did do a field trip. They went to Animal Adventure, then actually stopped at one of the ice cream shops on the way back. They had a kind of wrap-up activity at the Upland Center once the school year started. So they took the kids, as long as they were fine with their academic standing and all that kind of stuff, they basically got a day where they went up there and kind of, rehashed a lot of stuff and reviewed a lot of the stuff that they did over the summer. 40 students actively participated. It was a pretty even split, 20 as far as middle school and high school. This is, it's definitely a valuable program. Like I said, I can't say enough good things about the four ladies who run it, that they do a fantastic job. Any questions?
That's a high number.
Yeah, and there's probably, honestly, you could probably find 15 or 20 more that could benefit if you get them to come, we would.
I can still remember when we were in a leadership meeting, and I forget which administrator, it might have been multiple, might have been Art and Adam both, talking about the advocacy that was coming their way from the counseling, from student services and the social workers, where they were very, very concerned about losing connection with the kids over the summer, with a certain group of kids over the summer. And then that evolved with conversation there and handed back to them and say, well, what do you propose? And it just grew so quickly into this program. So it's just terrific programs. We give that group of ladies, fantastic educators, all the credit in the world. It's really developed into something special. And again, as we talk about sustainability of programming, this is a new programming. We have not changed our allocation for summer programming. And now with the BOCES aid coming back, we should be able to have sustainability of all three of those programs by applying that revenue coming in to that. The impact on our budget should be lower than what our allocation was. Hopefully, we'll see. That's part of the finance committee's work, but we dive into those numbers and we see the overall budget development numbers. But it's nice to actually be able to generate a revenue source to help with these programs to directly help kids. So, because there's not many of those opportunities, as we know. There's plenty of opportunities for expenses, but there's not as many opportunities for revenues, unfortunately, for schools, right? There's state aid, there's taxes, there's grants, and there's BOCES aid. So to be able to maximize BOCES as much as we can, and we're exploring other ways. Adam and I just talked about this yesterday. They're at the regional principals meetings. They're having conversations about other programmings and some adjustments to some of the coasters. Hopefully, that may lend itself to access other programming to help with offset expenses. That's what needs to happen as we move forward. BOCES has got to be a central way for us to develop more aid. That's part of their purpose. That's why it's cooperative educational services. That's CES and BOCES. That's what it's meant for, is finding a way for shared services, either among districts, either to fiscally do something that you couldn't do on your own by generating aid, or just sharing cost. And that's the mission, and it's hopefully we'll see that grow as time goes on, and not the expense side of BOCES that we've been so frustrated with the last few years of their budget. Hopefully we start seeing some new programming and some different programming to assist us as a district, all districts. So, and we'll keep advocating for that. So, thank you.
And I would also like to thank our teachers for coming in for the summer.
Yep, you
And
betcha.
I think it's great that every level that we have teachers that care so much about our students and their success. So I think we're fortunate to have such a great group of teachers. So.
Well, it's an excellent point. Regionally, if you recall 2 years ago, when we first brought it back in-house, we were going to lose summer school. We were going to lose credit recovery.
I recall.
Remember?
Yes.
In the high school.
Yes.
Elementary school, thankfully, we've had people step up year after year. We've had a good group in there. Sometimes, you got to work a little harder to get them to be able to do it, because they may have busy summers, but we've always been able to offer it at the elementary level. But the high school level, I think it was 1 day, 2 days, and you had all but one position filled 2 years ago?
Quick turnaround.
And BOCES have been working for 2.5 months, and it couldn't fulfill it. So we were pretty proud of that.
Yes, we should be proud of that.
We should be very proud of that. Yep. Okay.
Additions to the agenda. We actually have one change to the agenda. It's consent agenda item 8E, personnel resignations. Originally, we had 2 resignations on the agenda for tonight, but Ashton Johnston has expressed her desire to rescind her resignation. So if you're in agreement, we will take that off the agenda for tonight.
Yes.
Okay, so
Good
yes.
news.
I just have to manipulate this.
Okay.
Rather have it go in that direction than the opposite direction.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Okay. Ready for me?
Yes.
And the remaining consent agenda is, we have the financial reports, transfer of funds, declare surplus, then the personnel resignation of Heather Holly, personnel appointments of Courtney Setta for teacher aide and Ruby Bull, substitute teacher aide, okay. Then we have an emergency approval, curriculum planning at a rate for the WTA contract of Maria Catalano. Personnel approval, curriculum development and facilitation of instruction for Brittany Fletcher. Athletic recommendation. Does anybody have any questions or? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
As amended.
As amended. Yes.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Okay, so we'll move into new business. First is accept donations. So we would like to accept these donations with our appreciation. $100 from Bassett Healthcare Network of O'Connor Hospital to the Walton FFA chapter in memory of Jim Backus. $100 from the Farmers Rod and Gun Club of Cannonsville to the Walton FFA chapter in memory of Jim Backus. T-shirts and sweatshirts from Jesse Mason to Townsend Elementary students and staff, and $115 from the middle school, high school PTSA for supplies for the Honorable ice cream.
Make a motion to accept those donations.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approve tax collector's report.
I make a motion to accept them. Anybody has any questions?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we have an authorization for transportation of students. So this is Transport Services, Inc., beginning November 15, 2023 and ending December 15, 2023 for student transportation to Sullivan Bosse's at an estimated cost of $11,140.
That's for 1 month. I make a motion to accept that.
Okay. Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And then personnel appointments. So this is for Kayla Bolster for teacher's aide, and Loretta Clifford also for teacher's aide.
Mhm.
Can I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Now we're up to the policy update. So, first grouping is our first reading.
We actually have the policy review,
Okay,
the regular review of
okay.
policies.
This is for the annual review of the Board of Education
Mhm.
policies. Okay.
And then you have first reading, second reading
Oh,
and
second
adoption.
Okay.
I think we should stick with tradition.
Oh.
Start a new one.
I'm good.
So do you want me to read through the policy review?
Sure.
Sure, just to close that.
All right. Under policy review, we have 3120 duties of the superintendent, 4850 animals in the school, 5100 student attendance, and 8414.5 alcohol and drug testing of drivers.
And then our group of policies for the second reading.
So we have a bunch for second reading tonight. We have 2382 broadcasting and recording of board meetings, 4321 programs and services for students with disabilities, 4772 graduation ceremonies, 8414.5 drug and alcohol testing of drivers, 8414.5-E alcohol and drug testing program acknowledgement form exhibit.
And is R separate from that?
That's just a regulation, it's just
regulation?
informational for you.
Okay. So, and since that's the second reading, we'll need a motion.
Mhm.
I'll move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, now we're up to administrative remarks.
Okay. We'll go from left to right. Ms. Hector, on the screen, not on the seats.
That's the middle.
So at Townsend, we had parent-teacher conferences today and yesterday. We had a really great turnout. It was great to see parents in the building, talking with teachers. I've even had quite a few coming into my office, so that was really good to see. I also want to highlight on my remarks, we got the UPK grant for our All Bikes for Kids. So we got 24 bikes, and it teaches kids how to ride a bike in the end. So there's like a couple weeks of balancing, and then they learn to get the pedals on the bike, and then they really take off. So we're excited for that. That's for our UPK in first grade we're going to start with. So we'll see where that goes. And then lastly, we're excited for Monday for our community open house to see the new wing and all the improvements, and it looks really nice. So I encourage people to come.
I can't wait to see it in person.
I know. I'm
Very
excited
excited.
about that.
Will the furniture be moved in by Monday?
Not yet,
Okay.
no.
It'll be open.
Yes, it'll be all open.
A couple of people had said they were wondering why that wasn't on the sign.
That would be, yeah.
Because a lot of people didn't know about it. There's
Mr.
several-
Robinson?
There's several people
Can you-
who have no idea about it.
Right, well, it's just now being communicated. Actually, today was the first time we were pushing it out. So thank you for that
Yeah,
reminder, because
yeah.
that sign's not in our forefront,
Yeah.
you know? Can we add the Townsend School open house, construction open
Yeah, 'cause a
house
lot of people
for, on the sign?
Hey, what's going on here?
Open to all.
I'll send you that detail, Rick, that we're using, that we're communicating out, that you can pull from, okay?
We sent a flyer at the school in all the kids' backpacks too, so hopefully that'll draw some people.
Yeah. And it's gonna be on social media, website, and in the reporter, hopefully in the reporter.
I'd like to touch on, we had the IRT here this summer. Anybody was open to dental visits and stuff. But I don't know if the community, if your children are in school, you would know about it, but the general community may not realize that we have a dental van,
Mhm.
and it's very successful.
Oh, yeah.
I'm meeting my grandchildren, we have the dental van, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
So that's something that we offer, and, you know, I think it was a positive outcome, so I don't know who was in charge of all that, but it was a very positive outcome for them, so
Yes,
that's
it was
great.
great. We even had them do an assembly so the kids weren't scared to get on the van outside. But they love it. They come in, they show their toothbrush and their little bag from the dentist, and so it's all good, all good reports.
Nice.
Should Debbie put it on the sign too?
Just a tooth that.
Right.
Because that's not inviting the public, so no, we don't wanna do that.
I have a whole line showing up.
Yeah, and that's the Lord's dental van, just to get, put the hospital name out there, but that's who it's,
The Lord's Hospital,
Lord's
not like the Lord.
Lord's Hospital. Correct, thank you. Lord's Hospital, which is soon to be, I don't know if they're changing their name or not, they were bought out by the hospital. Guthrie, yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's come a long ways. We used to have a dental hygienist here in the school
Mhm.
years ago.
I remember.
So we would go and, to the dental hygienist, and we used to get pushed down a hill to ride a bike, and now we can ride a bike. So it's come a long ways.
Yes.
Let gravity take you.
Right?
Hold on.
I don't know where my numbers are, left or right.
Art
Who's
is the
next on
next
here? Art?
one, yes.
Mr. Loomis.
I just want to draw some
Thank you.
recognition to our 4 students that were inducted to the National Technical Honor Society up at BOCES. It's such a huge accomplishment to them. They have academic requirements they have to hit here at school, academic requirements they have to hit at BOCES. On top of that, have the skills they have to possess the skills to be eligible. So it's such a huge accomplishment. Tammy, thank you for showing up and supporting those seniors. That meant a lot to them. And it was a nice ceremony. They had 40-something kids, which is the biggest
It was
group
huge.
they've had in a
Yeah.
while.
On the Hero campus side, that is,
So that was, it was great to see, and congrats again to those students.
Yes, congratulations.
Yeah.
Sorry
You know
we
what?
missed it.
I think we'll do too, for the boards. Have you ever received the information of the characteristic traits? On the honor side, they go through the traits at the presentation.
Mhm.
Have you ever seen that or received any of that information on the technical? You probably have not. What they have, the thresholds they have to meet in order to be,
Well, I have, just because I've
Just get the
attended them
presentations.
several times, yeah.
well, let me see if we can get that information, Mr. Loomis, and we'll add it to one of your reports, an upcoming report, just to inform the board on what the characteristics and the thresholds are to be even being considered, let alone to be in. They have to go through steps, they have to do an interview process, there's a number of things that they have to do to be inducted.
And in the future, I would like to make a recommendation, because I felt bad about missing that, but we had a scheduled finance or facilities meeting here. If we can check those calendars for big events like that in the future.
We typically get a calendar for the year from DCMO, and we did not this year. And that's why we end up with a conflict. So we'll do a reminder to them that come fall, end of the summer, to give us their big events. They've already got them scheduled, and they got to get them out so that we can get them on all of our calendars and to avoid all those things. So that was a misstep on their end. And I think the invitations came out like, what, a week and a half before it was late.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it's important for them to give us those save the dates early, like the beginning of the year, or, you know, if they're gonna go a week and a half, you're gonna have conflicts everywhere, so,
And
absolutely.
we have always tried to be at these events, and, you know, like
Yeah,
Tammy, you know,
absolutely.
going to that. It's important that we get to see them, you know, the concerts and everything, but we also have, you know, the committee meetings and our board meetings, so it does make it hard to be at all of them.
Absolutely. So we'll advocate for that. Mr. Hoover?
I put lots of pictures.
Yes.
I do want to point out something that wasn't in there, that I just ran the numbers today. All 5 of our fall interscholastic athletic teams are scholar athlete teams.
Nice.
Nice.
And some very impressive averages on the team. So 75% of the kids have to have a cumulative average above a 90. And then every student who's above a 90 is then a scholar athlete. So we're off to a good start for the school year with our student athletes.
Nice.
Okay. Any questions for any of them? No? We're good? Okay, a couple things for me. We've talked about the construction open house, and then I just mentioned how we're getting it out there communicated. And we're talking about, we touched on it a little bit, but classes are going to resume in there as probably Wednesday would be my guess of that week, right? So we're working on getting the moving done between the moving company and staff and students, and between the two, we'll get it back in place. It'd be nice to see that populated again, that part of the wing. Fall newsletter, which includes before and after of all of that construction, as well as the generator project, which include the windows, the generator, and the library, as well as a number of other opening school year. It's back to an 8-page newsletter rather than the 4-page brief. I think you'll like it. I think it's pretty impressive. I think that is off the print shop. That should hit hit homes the end of next week. So they should be able to get it out the beginning of the week. Should hit homes the end of next week. So be looking for that. And contract transportation, that we just saw another contract transportation, just to inform the board. Meg and John Nolan are working on an analysis, financial fiscal analysis on contract, because we are having so much of it. To do our due diligence on a fiscal analysis between what it would be if we did our own. Of course, that has its own challenges, because you gotta have another bus driver for each run, as well as the vehicle expense. So, but they're gonna do an analysis, so we will have that, and I'm sure it'll be presented to the finance committee, and that can be communicated out. But as you can see, with more and more of these outside placements, the DCMO doesn't have, well, any of the BOCES don't have enough of the programming or have enough to offer. We have these outliers for the programs, and we have transport, so it's very expensive. But it'd be interesting to see what that analysis is when they get it done. But that is being conducted, just so the board is informed of that, because it seems like these are every month or so we're coming up with another contract to you, and it is a very high number. Even though we do get aid back on it, it is a very high number when we talk about contract services for transportation. So we are doing our diligence on that. More to come. Okay. And that's it. I've got the note for us to take a look for summer programming on the busing conversation. We'll take a look at that in the spring, and we'll move forward from that. That's all I have.
Yeah, quick question.
Yep.
On the budget survey, is there gonna be a refresh of the announcement? Just that's
Yes.
out there before it closes on the 1st?
Yes, next week.
Because we've had great feedback so far, but.
Yeah, we planned on 1 or 2 more push outs on social media to let people know that it's out there. So I'll confirm that when that is going to happen.
We have had great feedback.
Yeah, we're up to
It's
90,
nice to see.
98, I believe.
Yeah.
When this does close, there is, you have access, you see the spreadsheets. There is within the program, different statistical analysis stuff that they do. So when we get done and it closes, you'll get I'll make sure to print everything that's there into a PDF. So you'll see all the statistical analysis from the questions, responses, as well as you have the actual responses in the spreadsheet that you can see. But that'll be there as well. Okay?
And we will be going into executive session. So I will need to have, how does this go? Adjournment from here and then,
Well, we're gonna come back in and take action.
okay.
Right.
So going in, it would be for the purposes of discussing
The CFC
The
student
CFC.
matters.
Okay.
Make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.